just a leather jacket and short set, but with some crochet trim that turns them into basically works of art. I'm gonna walk you through my favorite hacks for adding crochet to existing clothing, breathing new life into 2 fast fashion pieces by adding just a little bit of decorative detail that I promise will be completely transformative to the way that I view these pieces, and hopefully will help inspire you to spice your wardrobe up a little bit too through some easy upcycling. So what are we making? Well, the inspiration for this is something I'm really excited about. I've had this Moschino set in my saved folder. I found it and I just was like, oh my goodness. And that's what we're gonna be replicating today. The 2 pieces I'm working with are this jacket and shorts that I'm wearing. I'll give you a little bit more detail here. We have a lot of similarity in that there is this bottom buckle situation and an asymmetrical zip on this jacket. But for me, what was actually more important in choosing this jacket to upcycle is I've had this since at least 2016, but honestly I've stopped wearing it. It's not something I really reach for in my closet, and these shorts are something that I wear fairly frequently. They're just so boring. I wear them a lot because they're just really comfortable. They're from like H&M, but I would love if they had a little bit more something to them. I want them to be things that really bring me joy in my wardrobe so that I get excited to wear them and keep wearing them and don't have them just sitting in my closet gathering dust like this jacket is. Let me walk you through how this Moschino trim was added. If you look really closely right along this edge here in those scallops, you can see that the top of that trim is actually sewn on. This is much easier to see on the more colorful piece. In terms of mass production, it'd be a lot easier to sew on a trim rather than to hand crochet off of something. But I'll let you in on a secret here. All you need is a running stitch or a blanket stitch somewhere in your piece and you can crochet off of it. So I did do a little test swatch in this blue and the black where that first and second, oh, I should go this way, where that first and second row are the same colors, because I liked the kind of cool blue summery vibe against the black. But then I remember I have this black and white that I wound together. It's just this with another solid white, so there's a little bit of a gradient in it. And I thought that with these could actually be quite special, and then maybe even doing something that looks like this. So first I'm gonna get my foundation row, I'm gonna call it on here. I'm gonna use my yarn, which is pretty small, and use a tapestry needle to get a really small stitch in all of the places where I want to crochet off of. I would rather not put holes in the faux leather if possible. It's not like it's gonna fray or anything, it's plastic, it's good. But in a place like here where you see there is already a stitch line, I can actually just go under those stitches rather than having to poke new holes everywhere. For the very beginning of it, I'm just gonna go under this little top stitch, and then I'm just gonna loosely sew under these, being careful not to break that stitch and to keep it pretty relaxed, because I am gonna need to be able to get my hook under it in a little bit. And see, it's really subtle right there by going through, I think, this seam line here. So this is just going under that seam, and then I'm just gonna knot it and then just clip it right there so I have a little bit of extra length to work with, and then I'll go in, restring this one, and do the same and hide it under there. Next, I'm gonna do the same thing around the side zipper. And then we're gonna do the same thing where we thread this bit of yarn under each of the existing stitches, and look how good it looks. As I'm stitching this, I'm not using any sort of fancy needlework or anything. I'm just doing just a stitch under each of the sewn stitches that will let me pick it up. I'm going through it and it's not very tight at all, because I'm gonna need a hook to go under there. I'm gonna need some yarn to go under there. It's just about kind of gently getting this through. As as evenly as I can. But this is, again, really easy, and I'm just creating that foundation. And I think even if you did this in a contrasting thread, even just this little detail would actually be quite neat. So maybe if you're trying to ease your way into something like this, a little tapestry needle yarn underneath the main body stitches would be nice. Last one at the base of the zipper, and just like how I started, I'm going to secure my yarn by going into this zipper mesh right here, right on the corner. It'll go in really easily because it's just like a little fabric piece. And then see it coming out behind my zipper there. I think this is actually the trickiest part. I need to get a knot in here that isn't gonna get caught in my zipper in the future. And there is our border stitch on our second thing there. Next up, I'm gonna do the sleeve. I could use this inside here where it's lined to anchor it, but I don't think it's gonna work. I think I'm gonna need to punch some holes in the leather. A quick hack for threading your yarn is to fold it, grab it, and then that end, oh, it's so hard to show, should squeeze through. Okay. To start this, I'm gonna go in through a weaker spot that I can secure it. So I'm gonna go in through this seam line here and see if I can come out the top. Okay, so I'm in the seam line, and then can I come out the top? Come on. I saw it starting to go there, but that was way too much work, and I'm not gonna do that for the whole sleeve, so I need a better needle. I have decided to work smarter, not harder, which I think is a good strategy in life. I think that tapestry needle will do just fine if it has a starter, but I also have nothing that's helping me know my stitches are gonna be even. So I'm gonna clip my tape measure to the end of my sleeve, and then I'm gonna go in with a sewing needle, and I'm just gonna punch a little hole roughly every ½ centimeter. And what that's gonna do is serve as a starter for the hole for my tapestry needle. But see, this needle has like no problem going through this. So I punched all these teeny tiny holes along the edge. Let's see if it works now. Ta-da! So I am just doing a running stitch all the way around, which is creating quite a few gaps between. So I'm gonna go around twice actually. We've gone all the way around the top once really loosely and give it a good stretch so you make sure it's really nice and loose. We're gonna go around one more time, doing just like a running stitch in every opposite bit. So where I was going in before, we're gonna come back out. I'm filling in all of the spaces so that when we go through to crochet, we have all of the starting points that we need to all the way around. I just screwed up, so I'm just gonna pull out the last place. We've made it all the way around, and I'm about to go back into this first little stitch here so I can come out the seam line again to secure it. Look how good that looks. I finished all of that stitching under those little seams, but I wanted to pause, put it on and show you. It already looks incredible. It's hard to see, I know, because the yarn isn't a contrasting color, but can you imagine if it was? Don't underestimate the tapestry needle and just a little bit of yarn. Now I'm really excited to make this pop because, again, I think the black yarn on the black fabric makes it more challenging to see. If you have done a chain before in crochet, you just take your hook, grab something and pull it through, and that's a chain of one, just going like this. You can do this stitch because we're going to be doing a slip stitch, which is the same thing, but you're just doing it with one more loop. We're going to get our piece here, and the hardest part will always be getting under these little stitches, so that's why we kept them loose. So we're just going to thread our slip knot through that little first hole, and then we're going to start crocheting where we just grab it and pull it through on every stitch. Grab it, pull it through, grab it, and that is called a slip stitch. And so for each one of these little stitches, I'm just sticking my hook under, grabbing my yarn and pulling it through. And then what we have, that little slip stitch creates this nice V on here. It took me about maybe 20 minutes to do that slip stitch all around the collar. You can see it's already just jumping out at you. Wow. Let me know in the comments what level you are as you're approaching this. Are you just watching this for some inspiration, for something you might work towards in the future? Are you someone who thinks that they could tackle that level 1 of using the tapestry needle? And while you're at it, if you're enjoying this, I would love if you give me a thumbs up so that I know that you're enjoying this type of content. As I'm going through to tie off my ends, I'm pulling my yarn through my last stitch to have a nice little slip knot there. And don't worry about having these, we'll get rid of them. I would err on the side of a little bit longer of a tail. Look how fab that pocket's looking. Now on to this one. Coco Chanel called to say we are looking too damn good. Wow. Let me add the jacket. So we haven't even done the fancy crochet yet. This is just a simple slip stitch. You can see now, even just with this little line of contrasting yarn on the edge of everything, how elevated, how exciting, and it's only gonna get better from here. I had laid out how I was gonna do all of the stitch patterns to have it mirror that original Moschino piece. However, I ended up actually having to rein it in a little bit. If I look at the original garment, we have 2 main patterns where we have the foundational row form a scallop, and then the second row also has a scallop, and then we have where the foundation row only creates spaces for the second row of scallops. So those are our 2 main patterns. The first one is used in kind of those chunkier spaces, and then the second one is used at those outside details. I thought I was going to do that full thing and started that here and in the darker blue on this part of the shorts, on the trim, and then on the back. I really liked how that looked. I did end up doing the full double scalloped pattern on the back pockets. As I looked at the effect that that had, it seemed a little bit overwhelming. Now there is a second version of the scallop on some of the smaller pieces on the jackets, which I did on both of the top trims of the pockets. And I think that worked out really nicely because it's a little bit less in your face. And that is the really simple pattern for the shorts. By the time I got to the jacket, I was really questioning my life choices in terms of how much scalloping I really wanted on the jacket. On this outer edge of the jacket, I did the full scallops, and on the interior trim all around the neck, on the inside here, this piece, I did that same pattern, and that's where I stopped. For everywhere else, I was looking and I was like, this is a lot of crochet for this jacket. So I decided to use this secondary pattern that's on the pockets here to do the belt edges. And I think that was pretty successful. I did the same thing on the zippered pockets. But one of the things that I did was I did actually both rounds in just that darker blue on this side. I kind of wish I'd done that on this side. I might unpick and do that. I did that full scallop on the edge of this little pocket trim. In the instance of this pocket, the cupcake vibes totally work. The last part I'm gonna do are these little lapels here, and then we're gonna weave in the ends. Second shoulder is done. Now it's time to use that tapestry needle and weave in the ends. So the way that you're gonna do this is put both of the yarns through the eye of the needle, and then you take that threaded needle and you're gonna stick it into a seam here. You're not trying to go through, yeah, see, look how easily that went in. You're not trying to go through the leather itself. You're trying to go in between this piece and this piece and the space that this seam creates. That way you're not making any holes or anything. And then on the other side of mine, I notice I'm in the lining. So what I wanna do is I wanna get my needle through so that I have the entire needle now with all of my yarn attached in the lining, and I'm going to grab it and just kind of pull it in, and then I'm gonna seam the lining to bring it back out through. I don't mind as much putting a hole in the lining here, but it's just better for the garment the fewer holes we have. So I'm bringing it out through the little armhole, and there you have it, no ends. Technically, we haven't knotted it or really secured it, so you could pull it back out if you wanted to, but I found that getting the yarn through this seam here is actually pretty strong. So unless you intentionally are trying to pull that back out and change something, it should hold. So we're gonna do that one more time on this side. If this end is really short and I'm gonna lose it as I'm trying to get this through the seam, is I'm gonna go into the seam first. So there we have our tapestry needle just like chilling in the seam there. And then I'm gonna take my 2 yarns and I'm just gonna kind of weave them in. If you have a yarn threader, that might make your life easier, but if you just fold them in half, there's like some rule about if you fold it over the thing, it's gonna fit through, and see how easy that was for me. And this is again why we're using a tapestry needle. And so even though this end is short, it's already all the way in, so I just keep going, grab it on the other side. There it disappears. I have my needle on the inside. I'll go find a seam. Here you can see I had a really long end, so I pulled it all the way back out. That's fine. Oh, and actually that one came out too. Nothing wrong with that, unless it tickles you. And there our ends are woven in, the easiest crochet and weaving in I've like ever done. I think this looks incredible and so expensive. So don't be afraid to adjust based on your appetite for how many scallops, how many ruffles, how much crochet you want to be on the pieces. If you try this, I want to know, make sure you tag me if you enjoyed crocheting with me today. I have some crochet alongs coming out shortly, so make sure you find that link in my bio to get on the email list for more information about those. But this turned out so incredibly well, and I hope you enjoyed this easy upcycling crochet hack, and I'll see you next time.